When a new series debuts, the pilot episode is possibly the most crucial element in determining whether it'll have an audience or not. It serves to establish the story, the characters, and the setting. But it's also got to have that something that captures your attention and makes you want to tune in with each following episode. However, sometimes some series just miss that mark and the pilot episode absolutely flops. Luckily, a few shows had just enough of a great premise to recover from their first faulty step and regain a huge audience following. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to create new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 terrible pilots for great TV shows. Number 1. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Paramount Pictures was in awe of how long Star Trek, the original series, had been in the spotlight, claiming 20 years was beyond their imaginations. But they knew they had gold and contacted Gene Roddenberry to create another series. He's the mastermind behind the original Star Trek, the animated series, and a couple of films. And at first, when presented with this idea, he didn't want to do it, but subtle phrases were used to get him interested and on board. In September of 1987, the pilot episode, named Encounter at Fairpoint, aired, and it was a bore. It was a 2-hour-long show that failed to bring the characters to life, give an idea to what their missions will be like, and the godlike being named Q, who plays an important role throughout the series. It's horribly paced though, and some things are just weird beyond weird. But we have to remember, technology isn't what it used to be. The crew is sent to another planet to open up relations with these people. And then there's an attack. And Q wants the crew to kill the other ship and its people. But Captain Picard doesn't follow through, as the alien he knows just wants to be with his mate. So they wait for their ship to be abandoned before striking it down. These aliens are kind of weird, as they're like jellyfish but in space and have some awesome powers. But this show faced its challenges with Roddenberry sticking to his Star Trek Bible, writers not getting along with him, and plenty of changes in writers, with Roddenberry eventually getting along with the new writers. However, the show continued on until 1994, where over 30 million people watched the 5th and final season. The show won so many awards throughout its run, even getting Lifetime Achievement Awards for the entire cast this year. And back in 2013, it landed itself at number 79 on the Writers Guild of America for Best Written TV Series, tying with the likes of Monty Python's Flying Circus and Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Go pay some respects to one of the greatest shows over on Pluto, Paramount Plus, Roku, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 2. Spartacus. Piercing blue eyes stare out from long wavy hair as the camera pans down to a man's hands shackled to the stone wall. Pan up through the rocking floorboards to a gladiator and a prisoner fighting to the death as blood comes flying towards the screen. Sounds like a great intro, but then it goes to a flashback of sorts, and that's where the story starts. I'm not really sure about this episode, as its weird 3D effect they're throwing around got to me. Then the unnatural colors when the protagonist is talking to his wife before the war, then to a grayscale, back to normal tones. It's just weird. Plus, the acting was a bit stiff. However, if you can get past the first 2 episodes, it's a phenomenal show that's completely underrated. Following Spartacus through all his journeys is just so satisfying and brings that feel of ancient times onto your screen. Following the life of any gladiator during the reign of the Romans was brutal and unforgiving, especially considering these men were considered nothing more than mere entertainment. Spartacus's story is usually followed after he and 70 other slaves started revolting. This show takes you on that journey from when he was first captured, how he survived the arena, and brought the revolt to the Roman Empire's doorsteps. That first episode was difficult to get through, as I said earlier, but continue to watch it. It's a great show. And even though Andy Whitfield, who played Spartacus, passed before season 2, Liam McIntyre did an amazing job filling the missing shoes. Head on over to Tubi, Plex, Stars, Sling, Prime, Billo, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango to give this one a go. Number 3, The 100. When Earth had a nuclear apocalypse, survivors were sent to space aboard the Ark, and were told that in 100 years they'd be able to return. However, 3 years shy of that, they send 100 teenagers down to Earth because the Ark is failing. Each of these teenagers are prisoners for various crimes and now face the possibility of death by returning to the ground. Sounds like a very interesting premise in my book, but the first episode, titled Pilot, just drags on. These kids are given a mission and some want to help their parents. Others are defiant. If you can get past that first episode, trust me, it's worth the watch. We follow Clark, Bellamy, and Octavia through all the trials of living in a completely new environment. How to survive among the people who did survive the nuclear blast. Then there's love, isolation, and some cannibalistic moments. But everything comes together so well. I will admit the last season is a little rough to get through, but it's still so good when you can get past all those red hues. It's brilliantly developed by Jason Rothenberg, who based his series off of the novel of the same name by Cass Morgan, which had its debut in March of 2014 and ended, sadly, in September of 2020. The cast is amazing with Eliza Taylor, Paige Torko, and Bob Morley, to name a few. The emotions are raw, and the chemistry between Eliza and Bob is unmatched. This is one of my favorite shows for when I do have some downtime. So check it out on Netflix, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime. Go ahead and enjoy this adventure. Number 4, 30 Rock. Tina Fey was the writer, creator, executive producer, and lead actress, and does not like the pilot episode, claiming it to just be a mess. Many critics have said that there's nothing really funny in this episode, and it's just lacking to be a comedy unless Alec Baldwin is on screen. Many praised him for just being able to supersede any joke that was presented, making him the ultimate star. Fortunately, this show does get better, and the characters are brought to life as it goes on. Season 3, Episode 1 is rightfully titled Do-Over. This episode brought in more fans and helped make the story continue into 7 seasons. It's quite brilliant, to be honest, as it makes fun of how network companies are with skit comedies, using SNL as a prime example. We follow a hilarious cast as they navigate running through writing and producing a show called The Girly Show, and all the trials of working with such a diverse set of people. By the time the show ended in 2013, it landed at number 21 on the Writers Guild of America for Best Written TV Series, and won 16 of the 103 nominations, including Outstanding Comedy Series. Tina Fey, Tracy Morgan, Alec Baldwin lead this cast, with several actors making guest appearances throughout the series. You cannot miss this one. So enjoy some laughs over on Hulu, Peacock, Disney Plus, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime. Number 5, Parks and Recreation. In 2009, more than 6.7 million households tuned in to get a peek at the new comedy series featuring Amy Poehler. With a style of a mockumentary, gearing a lot of jokes from sitcoms like The Office, it was bound for success. However, that first episode just felt wrong. many claiming that it's just a copy of other shows, lacking in character development and horribly paced. This episode follows Leslie, who listens to the community about a construction pit that has become a hazard to the people there, with one stating that her boyfriend broke his legs. Leslie then wants to turn that area into a park, but she's having some pushback from her boss, who's anti-government. During the whole episodes, there's jokes about Leslie and her co-workers just belittling her to the camera. I forgot to mention, this episode is made to look like a documentary of what goes on in their department. With this first episode, it just doesn't have that wow factor that you'd expect, and it comes up short. However, the rest of the show became a hit, especially as the writers gave Leslie more depth, in making her seem like she actually belonged in the department. At first, she was a stereotypical blonde, but then she gained the intelligence she needed. Writers worked with local officials and politicians to make it more believable. By the time we saw the end of Parks and Recreation, they received several nominations, winning 14, including a Golden Globe for Poehler's performance. Then in 2013, the Television Critics Association awarded the show for outstanding achievement in comedy. And it's well deserved. If you haven't already, take some time to check this out on Peacock, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime. I promise you will laugh. Just ignore that first episode. Number 6, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Not to be confused with the film Attack of the Clones. We are talking about the series that ran from 2008 to 2013, premiering on the Cartoon Network. The feature film is presented as the beginning of the series, but let's be honest, Ambush is the first episode, following Yoda as he tries to get the king to understand Jedis are the way to go. There's just a lot of fighting, and Yoda flipping and wielding his lightsaber just doesn't flow right. We're used to Yoda as this calm, wise mentor who can just defeat anybody with his mind. Even in this show, it brought new planets into the story, where good and evil isn't so black and white, making it kind of different from the originals. Then we got to see Anakin's dislike for the dark side of the Force, which eventually gets wiped away from memory. But let's face it, it continues on in ours. The show is actually really good and brings the old universe to the new one in such a way that makes it more believable. If you can get past the horrible animation and silly little quirks of the series, I think you'll love it. So go ahead and check it out on Disney+, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime.
Looking for some new duds to dazzle your friends and family with? Support Fat Ninja Studios by heading over to fatninja.shop and checking out our very own merch store. We've got everything from shirts, hoodies, hats, shoes, and more. Again, check out fatninja.shop. Every dollar spent goes to our big fund jar and helps us produce more quality content and short films. Thanks again.
Number 7, How I Met Your Mother. In 2005, we were introduced to this sitcom that lasted 9 seasons, ending in 2014. And while during its runtime, it was nominated for 91 awards, winning 21, including Favorite TV Actress for Allison Hannigan, Favorite TV Comedy Actor for Neil Patrick Harris twice, and Favorite Network TV Comedy. The creators Craig Thomas and Carter Bays wrote this series based off their time in Manhattan and all the things they did, with quite a bit of overdramatization. The cast is hilarious and complement each other so well. It's hard to dislike this show. However, that first episode is completely boring. The main thing I remember about it, because I kept zoning out, was Neil Patrick Harris screaming, "Suit!" Apparently, you have to wear a really nice suit to gain attention from females. But Bob Saget does a phenomenal job narrating, giving Ted's character a little more age and wisdom. But Josh Radnor as Ted Mosby is great. even if he's awkward and just not very put together in that first episode. Some good things happened, but overall it didn't really do anything besides bring in Robin, who becomes one of the group. Sure, we meet the other characters, but I felt that we got to learn more about her than anybody else initially. But I promise, it gets so much better as you continue on. Characters develop nicely. The long-awaited meeting of the mother is perfectly timed. And it does leave you in a bit of a bittersweet stance at the end. Head on over to Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime for lots of laughs. Number 8. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. This show was the show back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I know a lot of people who love this one, me included. But come on, we were young. Anyway, Joss Whedon originally came up with this concept back in 1992 when he wrote the film of the same name. And that was hilarious. So making it into a show about high schoolers and bringing in different dynamics to their characters really was a smart move. We follow Buffy, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, as she moves to Sunnydale and goes to school on the Hellmouth. Her and her friends fight monsters every week and battle to survive high school. Even their graduation was ruined by a giant serpent of some kind. I can't quite remember what it was called. But then there's love, loss, death, and then it gets kind of weird with all the other Slayers coming out of the woodwork, as there's only supposed to be one at a time. But let me tell you, that first episode was so bad it was good. Maybe not. Seeing Gellar play this preppy girl who just wants to be a cheerleader at her new school by day, then killing vampires by night. Not to mention the cringe one-liners that are all over this one. You had to laugh at some of it because it was just one of those moments where you facepalm. Overall though, the graphics are dated, but so is the show. And was missed by major award programs. They still won a few. And along with other shows during this time, we love that it has a strong female lead, which was not common until the mid-1990s. But for a kick-ass good time, head on over to Hulu, Disney+, Sling, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime. It's definitely worth a watch. Number 9. Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David created this show, mainly focusing around Seinfeld. Only a fictional version of himself, first airing in 1989. This pilot episode is a mess from the get-go. We aren't introduced to Elaine. Kramer has a different name. The apartment is just wrong. And the diner isn't Monk's. Then there's this other character, Claire, who's a waitress and seems like they want to make her into a permanent one, but she just doesn't cut it. The whole episode just doesn't hit any kind of mark to make an impression. But let me tell you, this show is about nothing other than a bunch of friends shooting the shit, dealing with a daily mundane life. Everybody goes to their jobs, and everybody has encounters. But these moments have created some of the best sayings, such as yada yada yada, or terms such as double dip. If you know, you know. But it's all hilarious. And sure, many touch on larger themes, but when you don't really want to tune into that, you can enjoy the nothingness. What's even better, none of these characters grow. What you see is what you get. But as everything, this must come to an end, which it did in 1998 after 9 seasons. Coming out on top as well, since this one has been titled second best written TV series of all time by the Writers Guild of America. Make sure to give this one some respect over on Netflix, Sling, Apple TV, Google Play, Fandango, or Prime. Number 10. Jessica Jones. Back in 2015, Netflix was doing a Defenders series, which was comprised of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. And yeah, Daredevil was just weird, but still good. Jessica Jones honestly took the cake on this series. Even though the first episode gave you absolutely no information as to who she is and why she's now a drunk detective. It's slow paced and just leaves so many questions. I feel it did not translate as well first from comic to screen. There's no plot really, and even later on you're still meeting core characters. Thankfully, the action and plot come together and bring us this 3-season series, which was fabulous. The cinematography was great, as well as the lighting, giving little cues as to what's really going on. We learn who she was as a superhero, why she retired. Then there's themes that are so eloquently discussed, such as PTSD and abuse. It's fitting for the Marvel Universe, and it's a great addition. Netflix originally came up with this series, but ultimately lost the rights due to Disney acquiring the MCU. It's a great series that needs to be acknowledged more, so check it out on Disney+, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, and Prime. You won't want to miss this edition. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any shows off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. Take care.